19-year-old's Reddit confession. The shocking story of fraud, lies, and deportation. I don't know if what I'm doing is wrong or right. It's basically wrong morally, I know, but I haven't had a single problem till now. These words weren't whispered to a friend in confidence or scribbled into a private journal. No, they were broadcast to the world on Reddit, a digital confession, half gloating, half foreboding. The author, a 19-year-old Indian student named Aryan Anand. The confession, that his life, his education, his entire identity was a carefully crafted house of lies. Fake grades, fabricated tragedies, forged documents. His story was an audacious symphony of fraud, orchestrated to land him at a prestigious US university on a full scholarship. But if Aryan's words were a storm cloud of guilt, they also carried the crackle of impending doom. He wrote, "I'm scared something very bad will happen in my life very soon if I keep on doing these things." And as it turned out, he was right. In this video, we'll dive deep into the shocking confession that set the internet on fire, the incredible lengths Aryan went to for his fraudulent success, and how one post on Reddit brought his entire life crashing down. This is a story of lies, betrayal, and the consequences of living a life built on deceit. Aryan Anand wasn't always a schemer. Like many teenagers, he started out with big dreams, but soon found himself buried under the weight of academic pressure. Growing up in India, Aryan had his sights set on cracking competitive exams like JEE, a ticket to the best engineering schools in the country. But when the COVID-19 pandemic hit during his Class 10 year, his exams were cancelled, and everything seemed to spiral from there. With schools switching to online learning, Aryan's resolve to study wavered. By Class 11, he had lost all interest in academics. Nights once spent revising textbooks were now filled with binge-watching horror movies, all while his parents assumed he was burning the midnight oils for exams. By the time he entered Class 12, the academic facade had completely crumbled. Aryan gave up on the idea of excelling in India's cutthroat education system and began looking for a way out. That's when he discovered the idea of studying abroad. At first, it seemed impossible, an unattainable dream for someone with no savings, average grades, and zero motivation to genuinely work hard. But Aryan wasn't ready to let go of the fantasy just yet. He began researching scholarships, admissions processes, and the loopholes he could exploit. If he couldn't win on merit, he'd create his own path. Aryan's fraudulent plan started taking shape piece by piece. His first move was doctoring his high school mark sheets, boosting his grades to paint himself as an exceptional student. He taught himself how to use editing software, perfecting the forged documents to a point where even a trained eye might not catch the discrepancies. But fake grades were just the beginning. Aryan knew that a good sub-story could open doors that raw talent couldn't. So, he fabricated a tragedy, claiming his father had died of cancer, leaving his family in financial ruins. For this, he even forged a death certificate. To complete the application, Aryan used AI tools like ChatGPT to write a flawless cover letter, presenting himself as a hard-working, brilliant, and resilient student. By the end of it all, Aryan had transformed himself on paper into the perfect candidate. His real self-apathetic, average, and unmotivated was now buried under a mountain of lies. And while his plan was riddled with moral dilemmas, Aryan saw only one thing: the chance to escape. Landing at the destination. With his fake grades, fabricated backstory, and a polished cover letter crafted by AI, Aryan Anand began submitting applications to universities abroad. He aimed high, targeting institutions that offered full scholarships to international students. At first, rejection emails flooded his inbox, each one a harsh reminder of how high the stakes were. But Aryan was nothing if not persistent. He knew the numbers game, applied to enough places, and eventually, someone would take the bait. That someone was Lehigh University in Pennsylvania. After reviewing his application, they offered him a full scholarship that covered tuition, housing, and travel expenses. However, there was one small hiccup. The scholarship didn't include meal costs. For most students, this would have been a manageable challenge, but Aryan wasn't about to spend a single penny. So, he spun another lie. He contacted the university, explaining that his father had passed away from cancer and that his mother was barely scraping by on half of her late husband's pension. The story was heartbreaking, complete with a forged death certificate to back it up. Moved by his plight, the university agreed to cover his meal costs and even provided him with an annual round-trip ticket to India. Aryan had done it. He was going to the United States, entirely on someone else's dime. When Aryan arrived in the US in August 2023, he was living a dream built entirely on lies. At first, he considered turning over a new leaf, thinking perhaps he could finally focus on academics and make something of himself. But old habits die hard. Within weeks, Aryan fell back into his usual patterns. He skipped classes, ignored assignments, and cheated on exams to maintain the illusion of being a star student. But his deception didn't stop at academics. To fund his personal expenses, Aryan devised yet another scheme. He altered his academic transcripts to show that he was a third-year marketing student. With this fake credential, he landed an internship that paid $1,500 a month. Money that should have gone to someone who had actually earned the opportunity. For months, Aryan juggled his web of lies with shocking ease. His fabricated persona had become so airtight that even he started to believe it. On the surface, he was a success story, a bright young Indian student thriving in America. But beneath it all, the pressure was mounting. Every lie he told had to be maintained, every forged document carefully hidden, and every interaction meticulously calculated to avoid exposure. Aryan's life was now a high-wire act with no safety net. One wrong move, one moment of carelessness, and it could all come crashing down. Yet, in February 2024, it was Aryan himself, with a single Reddit post, that turned his world upside down. The confession. By February 2024, Aryan Anand had built his entire life on an intricate web of lies. He had fooled universities, employers, and even himself into believing his fabricated success story. But what Aryan couldn't outrun was his own conscience. Or perhaps his ego. On a seemingly ordinary day, he made a decision that would seal his fate. He logged onto Reddit. Under the username ThrowawayTruth2024, Aryan shared a post on the subreddit r/bchtarts. The title alone was enough to catch attention. I have built my life and career on lies and fraud. What followed was a shockingly detailed confession, a bizarre mix of arrogance, guilt, and self-awareness. Aryan began by recounting how it all started. The fake mark sheets, the forged death certificate, the tragic story he used to manipulate Lehigh University into covering every penny of his education. He boasted about using ChatGPT to write the perfect cover letter, and crafting an identity so convincing that no one even thought to question him. The post wasn't just a confession, it was a manifesto. Aryan described his life in the US with unsettling pride. He detailed how he cheated on exams, faked credentials to land a $1,500 a month internship, and managed to live comfortably without spending a dime of his own money. To an outsider, it might have sounded like the confessions of a mastermind, but Aryan wasn't celebrating. He admitted that the weight of his lies were becoming unbearable. In one of the post's most chilling lines, Aryan wrote, "I don't know if what I'm doing is wrong or right. It's basically wrong morally, I know, but I haven't had a single problem till now. Still, I'm scared something very bad will happen in my life very soon if I keep on doing these things. The confession quickly gained traction. Some commenters were in awe of the sheer audacity of his actions, calling him a genius or ballsy. Others, however, were furious, condemning him for taking opportunities that could have gone to someone more deserving. The post wasn't just a window into Aryan's mind. It was a mirror reflecting society's complex relationship with ambition, morality, and shortcuts. But there was one reader who took Aryan's post more seriously than anyone else, the moderator of the subreddit. A 19-year-old from Faridabad, India. The moderator was a former JEE aspirant who knew the struggles of academic life all too well. For him, Aryan's story wasn't just a confession. It was an insult to every student who had worked hard and played by the rules. Fueled by a sense of moral duty, the moderator began piecing together Aryan's identity. Through details in the post and breadcrumbs left on Aryan's Reddit profile, he traced the confession back to its author. What started as a casual Reddit post had now become evidence of a massive fraud. The moderator contacted Lehigh University, sharing Aryan's post and the proof that he had gathered. The university's administration was stunned, launching an immediate investigation. For Aryan, the house of cards he had so carefully built was beginning to collapse. What had started as a moment of catharsis, an anonymous confession to strangers on the internet, had now become the spark that would destroy everything he had worked to create. The downfall. Aryan Anand's confession on Reddit was meant to be anonymous, but it quickly turned into a digital breadcrumb trail that led straight back to him. Once the moderator of r/BCHtards connected the dots and alerted Lehigh University, the institution wasted no time investigating. The evidence was overwhelming. Aryan's falsified documents, fabricated tragedies, and fraudulent academic performance all came to light. What had once seemed like a bulletproof scheme was now unraveling at an alarming speed. On April 30th, 2024, Aryan's double life came crashing down. He was arrested and charged with forgery, tampering with documents, tampering with records, identity theft by deception, and theft of services. The charges were serious. If convicted on all counts, he faced up to 20 years in prison. For a young man who had never faced the consequences of his actions before, the reality of his situation was staggering. Lehigh University, eager to distance itself from the scandal, pressed Aryan to come clean. During the investigation, he admitted to everything. The faked mark sheets, the forged death certificate, the lies about his family's financial struggles, and even the altered transcripts that secured him a lucrative internship. His audacity left university officials stunned. They also saw an opportunity to avoid further damage to their reputation. In a surprising turn of events, Lehigh University agreed to drop most of the charges on one condition. Aryan would plead guilty to forgery, be deported to India, and never return to the United States. Additionally, he would not be held financially responsible for the $85,000 the university had spent on his education. It was a lifeline, a chance to avoid decades in prison, but it came at the cost of everything Aryan had built. On June 12, 2024, Aryan pleaded guilty to one count of forgery. Shortly after, he was deported to India, where his story became a cautionary tale. The boy who had once dreamed of a better life abroad returned home in disgrace, his future uncertain, and his reputation ruined. What began as an audacious plan to escape the pressures of his upbringing had ended in complete collapse. Aryan's lies may have carried him farther than anyone could have imagined, but the truth, as it always does, caught up with him in the end. Aryan Anand's story is a stark reminder that shortcuts might get you ahead for a while, but they always come with consequences. His lies and fake documents helped him get into a prestigious university, land a scholarship, and even get a paid internship. But in the end, his web of deceit unraveled. This story isn't just about one person's mistakes, it's about the intense pressure many young people feel to succeed. Aryan wasn't the only one facing these challenges, but his extreme actions brought attention to how far some are willing to go when they think their future is at stake. Ultimately, Aryan's fear was right. His lies caught up with him, and they cost him everything. His Reddit confession was a final warning to himself, and to anyone who thought they could live a life built on fraud. The bottom line, you can only hide the truth for so long. It will always come to light, and when it does, the damage can be irreversible. For Aryan, the price was his education, his career, and his future. And for others, his story serves as a powerful lesson. Shortcuts might seem tempting, but they always lead to dead ends.